Welcome everyone to the November Open edX Community Meetup, November 12th, 2020. Today we have our guest speakers, Patrick Neubert, talking about small scale training with the Open edX software. Before we dive into it, I want to cover just a few points. The Open edX community has a code of conduct which governs all of our interactions, whether online or someday in person. We have a discourse forum for online chat, for forums rather, discussion asynchronous. If you're in different time zones, discuss.openedx.org is a great place to interact with the community and join into discussions ranging from how do I do this thing to what should we do? What's the roadmap? Where is Open edX headed as a technology? And we have a Slack workspace that you can use for more interactive discussions if the need arises. We're of course on social media. There are all the links: blog, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And these are our online meetups, which we do once a month. Occasionally we miss a month, but we're trying to do them on a regular cadence. We are always looking for interesting topics that the community will want to listen to. So if you've got something you'd like to say to the community, please drop us a line. You can send us an email, oscm@edx.org, or there's a link on the slides. We provide the link on most of our notices about these events. So if you go to discuss.openedx.org, you can find them there as well. One of the things that the community has been doing for a while now is working groups where interested people in the community band together to accomplish certain objectives. These are community-led. There is participation from people within edX as well, but for the most part, most of the energy comes from people outside of edX, both in terms of setting the direction for the group and in doing the work of the group. The two working groups that we've got going right now are the Build, Test, Release working group, which is technical. It's about the community installation of Open edX, which comes out every 6 months. And the Marketing working group, which is marketers from various service provider firms getting together to think about how to tell people about the entire Open edX world. And just to dive a little bit more into detail about each of those groups, the Build, Test, Release working group right now is working on stewarding the community installation, which you may have heard of as Juniper Koa. We release every 6 months and they're named alphabetically after trees. The current release is Juniper and the next one coming up is Koa. They're also talking about what should the community installation be? How should it change? The current community installation is based on technology that we developed a number of years ago, and there is new technology out there that's probably a better footing for the community installation. So what should it be? And the working group also focuses on how to upskill contributors. If you're a technical person and you're interested in contributing to the platform, the working group might be a good place to find like-minded technical people and get them to help you on your journey towards being an Open edX contributor. The working group meets online every 2 weeks or so. They actually alternate time zone friendliness with the times of the meetings. And there is a category in discuss.openedx.org where they do their textual interactions. The Marketing working group is working on things like, how do we describe the Open edX offering? How do we explain to the world what Open edX is, what they can do with it, why they might want to use it? How do we get the word out about Open edX? What are the right channels to be active in, and how can we put our best foot forward there so that people will find out about Open edX and adopt it? And the last bullet, conference. We don't know about the conference. We're not sure what's going to happen. What should we do? Looks like we can't hold a physical conference. What should we do instead? It's sort of a wide open field for possibilities. Again, the Marketing working group meets online every 2 weeks. They're on a same time, every time cadence. Everyone is welcome. If you'd like to join, you can chime in on the Marketing working group category in discourse. You can find the announcement of the meetings there, and you can join us to help us get the word out. Does anyone have any questions about anything I've said so far? The working groups, the community in general? Going once? No. Okay. Then I'm very pleased to introduce Patrick Neubert from Polarstern Education. he's been running a very interesting course. They've been running a very interesting course on the Open edX platform, sort of well outside the usual courses that we see on edX, certainly. And so it'll be very interesting to hear what he has to tell us about how that went. Patrick, I will stop sharing and you can share your screen. I think. Yes.
Great. You should be able to see my slides now.
Yep, looks good.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. I'm one of the co-founders of Polarstern Education. We are a Open edX provider and a media agency based in Aachen, Germany. And we're a spin-off startup of RWTH Aachen, which is one of the largest technical universities here in Europe. And we started Polarstern Education based on the idea that the main challenge when you want to build an online course or you want to build pretty much any type of online learning experience is always reducing complexity, because we know that whenever we want to build an online course or even an academy, there's so many fields at hand that we have to take care of. And our idea was to pretty much form a team that is able to provide all of these services from a single source. And that matches with what I want to present today. I'm going to be talking about a typical course development process based on an example of a course that we built for government institutions, which only targets a very niche market and a small audience. And I want to just take you through the process that we normally take when we build these courses. And the fields that we look at when building a course are always the same. And we try to standardize this process in a 90-day sprint, so to speak. And this sprint consists of course design. It consists of technical development, which is why we're a part of the Open edX community, because the courses that we built are all built on Open edX, on the Open edX platform. In the past, we've experimented with many other solutions like Moodle and Elias, and I will just give a brief introduction to why we chose Open edX. We also noticed that data analytics is very important to our clients and our customers. And of course, in order to build courses, we need expertise in media production and video production, and then ongoing support for the users within these academies. So let me start with why we chose Open edX. For us, there are many advantages to Open edX, but I just want to break it down to the four elements that made us go in this direction. The first one was costs. We're a small startup, or we were a small startup back when we made the decision, and we didn't have the team to develop our own LMS or something similar. And we liked the fact that after an installation, we had a full feature set, and we could just go through the features and get a feeling for what features match best to the learning objectives of the topic experts that we're working with. Another thing that is very important with the clients we work with, they're either governments or they're smaller German companies who are very concerned on privacy and data security. And they were able to view the entire code and do their checks, which is not possible if we just license the software somewhere. So this just gives a different level of trust working with an open source solution. The other thing we like is just the amount of speed, where we see on just a repeating basis that there's being stuff done within the community, new features are being released, trends are being adapted, and then the last point is adaption, which in our case refers a lot to theming. So we were looking for a solution that for every institution we could just within a short time frame, quickly add their corporate identity to a platform. And this was possible in any case so far. But one of the challenges we had was that there is, let me call it a misconception out there that whenever we spoke to potential clients and customers, they were, most of them either didn't know what a MOOC was, but the ones that did always associated MOOCs with these large courses that we see on edX.org, and they thought that their content doesn't have the proper audience or target group that they would be able to leverage this technology. And then when they were thinking about their markets and their audiences, the course development costs would outweigh the potential income that they could have if they were trying to build a for-profit online academy. So the challenge that we have is trying to build a development process that is not too cost intense. And this was what we focused on most of the time, just to build a lean development process. And I think this is something that is often overlooked, a field of application, also known as SPOCs, small private online courses for Open edX. Yes, so this is what I'm going to focus on. How do we get to a point where our development process is always the same and people are know their role within these individual processes, so that we can reduce the time that our team needs to build a course, and then therefore reduce the cost to get to a course or something like a minimal viable product, especially if there's nothing within your market that exists online. So right now, I think from a German perspective, we're at a point where within the English language and within wide topics, pretty much everything is available online. However, we see that there is a lot of niche markets, especially within the German language, where we don't have high quality content online, and we want to serve these markets, and we want to reach out to these experts within any given field and help them just from whether they're giving lectures on campus or they're doing small training, corporate training within companies. We try to have the same process every single time. And one way to make sure that we can we stick to this process and don't get lost in the details is that we've gathered everything in one course journey, which looks like this. This is just a screenshot of a Miro board, and this Miro board gives a very high level overview of what we have to do within every project to get to a course. I'm just going to jump into one of these boards right now. So unfortunately, this project that I'm talking about was built entirely in German. So this board is in German, but I will kind of walk you through the steps and then go into detail in the English version later. So within a board like this, what we can just see from the structure is when we build courses, we build them chronologically. We have a certain process that we always follow, and it starts with onboarding our topic experts. And then we jump into a second phase, which is once the topic experts have an understanding of what we want to build, being a SPOC or a MOOC, we jump into the design phase where we build things like storyboards for our courses. And then in the next phase, we jump into the production, where most of what we do is very video based. So we have a green screen studio here in Aachen, but we also have a mobile green screen studio that we've taken all over the place to go to our client sites and help them produce videos. And then we go into an implementation phase within edX Studio that we use quite heavily. And then just from the size of the tickets that we have here, you can tell this is a very important field for online academies. This is the entire part of marketing and sales. So one thing that I think is often overlooked when we reach out to topics experts who've been giving on-site seminars over the last few years. They need to change their entire marketing and sales strategy if they want to host an online academy. And that is something where we guide them through. And then this phase right here is the entire support phase of having an ongoing course. And then this is ongoing improvements, because we always have these 90-day timeframes. And then after these 90 days, we know that these courses are never really finished. They're always living through iterations ongoingly. So let me jump back to the slides here, and I'm just going to dive into the different phases and talk about what we've learned so far. So in this first phase, in the conception, we always start with defining the personas of the audience that we're trying to reach. And this is helpful in two ways. It's helpful for the experts, for the lecturers, to get an understanding of what are their customers and what do they need in an online format. And we always try to define 4 categories with them. We always try to define the goals of the learners on maybe even a career level, on a very high level. And then we try to figure out what do they want from a course. What are their goals when joining an online course? We ask them about their challenges to see what are their challenges on the job, or if we're taking a course or giving a course at a university, we ask the same questions. We're trying to understand what are the challenges given within a certain topic that's trying to be taught. For us, especially when we're going into a company, we try to understand the habits of the workforce. This varies by age. So we take a look at how much are they learning online? What are the online products that they're using day in and day out? And then at the end of the day, we're trying to understand what are the needs of these personas that we've defined in order to also satisfy teams like management when they want to estimate what is the ROI on a project like the ones that we're doing. So this is something we always go into with every project. It helps the speakers, and it also helps our team to make decisions when we're designing the courses. And then we can use this time to really define what makes this course unique, especially when we're building something in a market where we know other alternatives exist. They don't have to be an online course. They could also be a book, but or some handbook that has been passed through the company in the past. We want to understand what makes using the Open edX platform or the courses unique. In many cases, the people that we're working with haven't finished or worked in a MOOC before. And we want to give them an understanding of what are the best practices, what are the formats that really work, and what are the formats that are entertaining as well. And one thing we like to use is we just go back and look at the winners of the edX prize over the last few years. And then we refer them to courses that might be close to their topic, send them a link there, and then they can go and have a look on their own. And then they normally come back to us and kind of have a feeling for what they want to build. One thing that sometimes in the past has caused issues within projects is that we didn't define roles clear enough at the beginning. So now whenever we're starting a project, we use a very traditional Raki matrix. So we try to define every single role within the project. We've published some blog posts on our experience working with companies. Unfortunately, they're all in German. I did a bit of Googling, and I know that Raccoon Gang has some in English. So let me give a shout out to Raccoon Gang there if you want to look up some of this. I know that the things that are being described there are similar in some cases. I read they are also using a technique like this to define the roles and then the different phases throughout the projects. One thing that I notice is, especially when we're working in small teams, we have more roles than we have team members. So it's helpful to see which role am I supposed to fill when I'm part of a course team working on this. And then the part one of this phase is ended once we have a storyboard. And a storyboard for us is a key element to get a feeling for the length of the course, and also get a feeling for how much work do we have to put into media production to complete the course. And in most cases, we already have content in some form, in a book or in a lecture, but we really try to start from scratch every time. And we ask the experts to just list every learning outcome that they want their students or their learners within the company to have after they finish the course. And then we take all these learning outcomes and we try to map them together into different topic fields. And only when we're done with building that board, and we try to also there do it very visually. So in the past, we did it in workshops with little sticky notes. Now we're working with tools like Miro board. And once we have this structure set up, we go back to the content that they already have, and we try to put their content into that board. And then this approach allows us to just have smaller learning pieces or learning nuggets, and we can turn them into short videos. The thing we've stuck to over the last years is having videos somewhere between 7 to 12 minutes to have a nice like attention span, instead of having the more traditional 90-minute lectures, or maybe even having like half a day of a seminar, which sometimes is the basis for our work, that people come to us with like a half a day of content and they tell us to turn it into an online course. So we use this approach of a storyboard to get to something visual pretty quick. And we can do all of these steps pretty much in 1 or 2 days, depending on the client and how many people are involved in the project. The second phase is course production. And as I mentioned, we're working heavily with video. I think it's probably one of the best formats to just get attention. I know it's a bit more cost intense than working with some animations or just slides, or most German companies are actually in a phase where they're still relying on web-based trainings and other formats. So even the MOOC format is new to many companies, having an internal MOOC for a certain topic, but it grasps more engagement and attention than these traditional web-based trainings. And just to get started, at some point, we always start with a slide deck. So our video formats always look something like this up here. We have a speaker and we have slides in the background, and sometimes we have an iPad or a Surface laptop where the speaker can make some notes within the slides. But for us, just to have a good structure, we always start with the entire slide deck for the entire course. And then after that, we look at the learning outcomes that we've defined in our storyboard, and we try to identify the right kinds of question types that edX has within the platform to match to that content. So, for example, if I have a very complex topic and I want my users to reflect on the content, I might have an open response assessment or something like a peer review question within the course. And while writing the slide deck, our authors already take notes of that within the comment section of PowerPoint or something similar, just to save time throughout the process, that we don't have to go back afterwards. And then for other question types like numerical import or multiple choice, those match more to a type of content where I just want the users to pretty much repeat what they've learned in the videos. Once we've done that, and that is we have this big slide deck with all the comments and all the ideas, we go into video production within the green screen studio because it just gives us a lot of flexibility. And then we noticed that most of the time was being spent with giving feedback on videos and going back and forth between the experts and the video production team. And we've started using Frame.io, which is a tool that you can see here. It's pretty similar to something like Google Docs or Google Sheets, where our authors can just go in and put little notes in the videos and they're automatically time-stamped and we can just work through them. So that's also something where we've seen a lot of time being saved once we introduce these types of tools, instead of always uploading and downloading videos, and just saving time there between rendering as well. Part 3 of this process when building a course is, of course, uploading everything to edX Studio. So once we have all the videos, we have our first ideas for the assignments, we go in and upload everything. And one thing that we've been using for a pretty long time now are checklists. So checklists, some of them are available online. One we started with was the MOOC development checklist, that's online. And then we've started building internal checklists where we want to go into more detail. So you notice that in the MOOC development checklist, a lot of things are covered, but we want to have all our courses in the same kind of style. And this refers to things like the grading policy. So we want, if we're building within a company, we're building courses, we all want them to be similar in grading policies to not have some sort of confusion throughout the workforce. We want the certificate setup to be very similar. So we have that within our internal documentations. And then one thing is, when we have course teams and they're running different courses throughout a company, things that always get mixed up are the advanced settings of edX Studio, because it's not some decisions that have to be made are not clearly right or wrong. They're just a matter of taste. So we have our internal documentations for every client, how they set up their advanced settings for every individual course. This is really not rocket science, but it helps to also not have too much confusion and save time. And then the next thing we use very intensely is the beta tests. So we always try to have 5 to 10 employees or first users to go into the course. There again, we go into the advanced settings, try to give them 30 days of access prior to launch. They can go through the course and they can give us feedback before we go live throughout the entire company. If we have a client who's running a model where he is either selling the courses or they're trying to look for a business model in many cases, especially when they're new to MOOCs or new to SPOCs. Many companies haven't found their right business model yet. And in that time, it's important to really rank all your marketing efforts. It's one of the learnings we've always had is we cannot estimate the amount of marketing and sales we need to do to spread a word of mouth. And the way we go ahead there is we try to brainstorm every single idea that we have for promoting these online courses and try to gather them throughout the entire team. It's our team, it's the people building the courses or delivering the content on the client side. And we just rank all the ideas by impact, confidence, and ease. So I would ask everyone in the team, for every single marketing effort, please give me your score 1 to 10 on impact, confidence, and ease. And we add them up and we just work down that list from there to keep those things practical, basically. The one upside that online courses and online academies have is we always have a lot of content. So we try to reuse the content that we have within the course to maybe turn them into little snippet videos or turn them into trailer videos, and try to use those online. And the same applies for companies where we go in and they think they don't need to do marketing because they're offering something to their employees. But at the end of the day, they figure out that they need to do some sort of internal marketing to convince their employees, if an online course is voluntarily, to invest time to do the course. And the same approach applies here as well. We take a look at what efforts can we make within the company to get users on the course. And it's the same as outbound marketing as well. One thing that I find very effective throughout any topic or any online academy has been learner stories, because learner stories have been something where we see that the effort on our end is not too high because we have a lot of users who really like the courses, who are willing to write blog posts. We've also had the experience with Aachen University on the edX blog that there are users that like to blog about their experience within the courses, and they are very trustworthy and have a great impact without our team investing too much time into those. And then once we have our online course, our online academy built, the support starts. And we have started to build internal FAQs for the most frequent questions that we receive. That has been very helpful because we can transfer these FAQs from company to company. These always tend to be very similar, even though our companies that we're working with are very different industries. And with these smaller courses, we've seen that sometimes it's not the best approach to just answer every question with an email or within the discussion forum. If we have small courses with less than 100 users and they're all working for the same company, we can just collect all these questions and host online events or live events using Zoom integration or things like Big Blue Button, to get everybody together and answer the questions together and kind of get a discussion going. And I really like this experience and this part of building online courses because it kind of it helps to get people together and know that other people are working on the course as well. Because I think the main downside with MOOCs has been, and I think still is, that if we have individual people working through them, they can kind of get lonely as a user. This just scheduling a Zoom meeting and answering questions like a Q&A session makes a course much more lively, and I really like it, which is why we started another test or experiment, basically, which we called learning buddy matching. And learning buddies are people that we send out a questionnaire to every user, and we ask them how much time are they investing into a course, in which time zone do they live, and when do they study, when do they learn. And when these criteria kind of match, we send out an email to users, just put them CC and ask them if they want to exchange or study together. And this has worked in two types of courses. It of course works in large courses because it just increases the chances of finding somebody with similar learning habits, but it also works well within companies and small teams, because people don't reach out initially on their own to their peers to ask whether they want to be a learning buddy. But once we kind of trigger them and give the initiative, this helps. And over the entire course span, it might create something like peer pressure to study, like a positive peer pressure, because once you have a learning buddy, you don't want to lag behind their progress. And if it's a course that is scheduled, you want to keep pace with whoever your learning buddy is. And the last phase of these projects of implementing MOOCs into companies is ongoing improvements. And there also, we use very practical and simple tools. We have a routine of adding feedback sheets to the beginning, middle, and end of every course, and we review them together with clients and our team. And for some simple solutions like Google Forms work best. I know that others don't want to share their data or any kind of data with services like Google if they're more sensitive to that. We use things like Simple Poll within the edX environment, and the feedback just gets reviewed on a schedule basis. I think that's important. And then the most valuable feedback, just from our experience, comes from the beta testers, where we actively ask them to go in and review the courses, and they kind of know that their role is to review these courses. And we then, once we receive this feedback, or we receive the just the analytics, and we write down all the improvements that we could take, we split them into 2 groups. So everything that's regarding question types, we try to do that instantaneously. We try to go into edX Studio right away and republish the question type. But everything that involves video editing, we try to gather and do it in loops, because that just causes more work on our end to go back into the video and the project files and re-edit the videos. So that's like kind of a brief overview of the learnings throughout that process. And I can talk a little bit about the unique challenges. This was more like general stuff, but the unique challenges for like German government institutions that we had was, the first thing that we always heard was we have to host on German servers. That was just a given. And then we had to be very GDPR compliant. And that also means, in some cases, deleting features sometimes, if they want that, like not giving access to grade reports for everybody who is in the courses. And we try to find simple solutions, like just take out or deactivate certain links to analytic tools, which might seem counterintuitive if you're developing analytics tools, but it works in that case. But more important, I think, the entire concept of having MOOCs within government institutions to train people is completely new. And it's not something that we can just solve by adding features to a platform. What we found most helpful is, we know that there's a lot of great features out there, and we as MOOC users who've been using this for years and years know of the advantages, but we need to slowly introduce these target audiences. That's why we do, on a 2-weekly basis, we give webinars, and we just talk about how do you use these courses, how do you go in. These webinars are voluntarily, everybody can join. We answer questions, and we just try to show them on a screen share how we use these courses and how we navigate through the courses. And then the second thing is, for the platform, for the course that you see here, it's an online course for managing third-party funding. And you can purchase this course online through the website of the topic expert, Andrea Greven. And because this is very new, we give them a small demo course for free to just join, and then afterwards they can purchase the entire course. And also, due to the timing right now, we've seen pretty excited users and institutions. We have over 35 German universities taking the course right now. even though within most German universities, there is only one person who manages the third-party funding grants. So the target audience overall is not that large, but it plays out in the end, especially because we try to get them through this process of maybe getting in contact with us, then joining the webinar, then taking the demo course, and building trust over time for them to, at the last stage, join the entire course. And then maybe some closing learnings that I think mistakes we've also made when introducing these formats is we always came from a MOOC format that was about 30 units to 60 units long, which is also the, I'd say, average course size of an edX MOOC. But we've seen that this is too extensive for a course that you're learning on the job. So we try to build courses that have less than 15 units, with every unit being 7 to 12 minutes and then 3 control questions. Another thing that we've learned is that these courses are being consumed on a desktop. They're not using the mobile app. So we kind of put our effort into the wrong direction there. But I think over time we will see that popping up again. I just think we were a bit too early on that point of offering it on iOS and Android. And one thing we're thinking about right now is we know that these users prefer to have email communication over working within the discussion forum, just because, especially in the course which was regarding government grants, it might be some sensitive information. If you have a question regarding your grant process, you don't want to share it online. So we're thinking about how can we integrate email and chat more privately into Open edX. That's the thing we're working on right now. And then the other thing that I think was really helpful to get us started quickly was using Transifex to translate the platform from English to German. This has also been very important to build trust, because our age groups of users might be 50 to 65 and they don't speak English. So having German videos in an English platform didn't work out as well, but that was something that thanks to Transifex, we were able to cover quite quickly. So that was the learnings from these projects so far, and I am happy to go into Q&A, talk about what we're working on and what our experience is there.
Patrick, thank you very much. I was very impressed by the Miro board, and I'm wondering if that is a process that you find works across courses, if that's something that you can share more publicly, or is that your secret sauce and why people should come and hire you?
No, it's not the secret sauce. I'm happy to share. Unfortunately, it's in German, but I think we can get the basics translated to English. And yes, I'm happy to put the link to the board out there.
I know lots of people. There are probably lots of people who approach course development and think, you know, how hard could it be? Throw a couple of videos up on YouTube and you've got a course, right? And seeing that laid out will at least give them a sense of what they're getting into and maybe prepare them for success better than a more naive approach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If anyone has a question, you can either type it in the chat or just unmute and ask it. I have a few others that I'll ask while you're thinking about it. I was interested in the Learning Buddy matching, and I'm wondering if you've seen any effects about the different sort of skill level of students, because just matching up on time zones, you might get sort of an expert and a beginner in over his head, and maybe that's an ideal pairing actually, but it might not be the pairing they expected. I don't know if it's too early to have any sense of those sorts of dynamics.
Yes, there's. It always depends on the course. So if we do this on an on-campus course, for example, in Aachen, we see they're on the same skill level, and that, that might actually be boring to have people on the same level. But we've also done it on a course on edX.org on the it's called Introduction or Understanding Venture Capitalists, and there was the user base is very wide. It ranges from the experienced 50-year-old venture capitalist from Silicon Valley to the 18-year-old startup founder. And we've received the feedback that the people that I've been chatting with, they started looking at the slides together, they started looking at the videos, but at the end of the day, it was more of an exchange. They just talked about why they were in the course, they talked about their motivations, and they connected on LinkedIn, something I heard a lot. So I think
it's good.
Both can be fine. And the good thing about the buddy matching is if it's not a real match and we got it wrong because their skill levels are too apart, they will just ease out and find someone else and go along.
And is there technical, is there code that supports that matching? Is that something that you can contribute in any way?
No, unfortunately not, because right now it's just a massive Excel spreadsheet for the big courses, and it's a small Excel spreadsheet for the small courses.
Okay, good. Is there an acronym, massive online Excel spreadsheet or something that we can get going? We'll invent some cool technology and give it an acronym, but it's really just an Excel spreadsheet. And my last question, so I was intrigued by the email over the forum, and that puts the instructors in the hot seat, right? Because now they're the ones who are getting all the emails, and you don't get students able to support each other. So again, I'm interested in the dynamics of, I guess in a small course, that's fine because like you said, 35 institutions learning about grants, but one person from each institution, that's not so many for an instructor. That's almost just one classroom for an instructor to manage. But how would that scale up? Have you tried it in slightly larger courses?
We've not tried it in courses larger than 100 to 150 users. I think the main difference that we can see is the email communication also takes longer because the messages get longer. Because in a forum, I think what we can observe sometimes we run the same course somewhere in a university setting, online and on campus. And the communication that we have on campus, which is email, is much more intense and much longer questions and cases and ideas. Whereas in a forum, people try to keep it short. So that makes it even harder because we offer email communication and they take up more time. So that's what we've seen so far. I don't think that it can scale when the instructor is in the hot seat. It can only scale through having something like a community TA who, or having a team of community TAs who are answering those emails.
Right, which often happens in the discussion forums anyway. There are the TAs who are going to answer a lot of the questions in any case. Right. Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. This has been very interesting. I personally have not developed courses before, so it was eye-opening for me to see the entire scope of the process. And I hope it was interesting for others as well. We're almost at the top of the hour now. I don't know if anyone has any other things they wanted to discuss or ask, but we're always available, again, at discuss.openedx.org or in Slack. And you can reach us at email, OSCM, Open Source Community Managers @edx.org. And we're always happy to hear from you, especially if you've got something you want to tell the broader community. We can help you get the word out. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you in December.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.